Now, 2021 was a transformative year for fintech. From being a niche to becoming a cornerstone of contemporary financial systems, financial technologies have evolved significantly, and the pace of innovation isn't slowing down. Now, fintech is evolving into a more strategic and focused role. Let's talk about the Indian context. The country is well poised to become a global leader. India has the technology and talent to make it happen. The ultimate goal of the next wave of fintech innovation would be to assure a major influence of fintech on the country's gross domestic product by developing a sustainable ecosystem. Now, on this special episode, the Economic Times BFSI Innovation Tribe 2021, we bring to you a milieu of global subject matter experts who are charting the future path of fintech. First up, let's hear from Rajesh Dangi, Chief Digital Officer, NxtGen Data Center and Cloud Technologies Private Limited.
The fast emerging fintech community realized that the consumer behavior will continue to evolve, and hence they need to adapt their business models so as to achieve the right cost to serve and scale. The growth in penetration of digital channels, the non-physical modes of payments have witnessed a sharp rise, including the pandemic, and this trend is expected to grow and scale over the next few years. I'm not an economist, but as a technologist with the agenda of evangelization of digital enablement and solution engineering, proud to witness this digital transformation at a grassroots level via Digital India Mission. The role of technology in BFSI is critical and thus highly impactful in nature. The technology enables time and reach for delivering the services with speed without compromising the security and integrity around the clock. Security and compliance around the world, digital services have been witnessing a larger threat landscape, and technology is helping to deal with these threats as via behavioral analytics, forensics, and other threat hunting techniques. We have implemented robust digital services such as UPI, Aadhaar-based payments, digital wallets, eKYCs using biometric authentications, etc. These testimonials now are gaining global adoption and becoming the DNA of our financial inclusion strategies. While we have strengthened our policies and governance to protect our digital assets via personal data protection bill, data localization, or regulatory changes, it is becoming conducive to global practices, and comply to explain or ease of doing business elements should remain the key focus for our policymakers. Thank you.
Next up, we have the former Chief Economic Advisor KV Subramanian sharing his views on the Indian BFSI sector, leading the Asian market and how we can strengthen it.
Thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me to share my thoughts. So if we look at the important steps that have been taken over the last few months, I think there are three key things that stand out for the financial sector. The first is the account aggregator that's been created. I think that's a very, very important step because it enables all the data, relating to transactions done by individuals and, and small and medium enterprises to be aggregated and shared with financial sector firms, while at the same time ensuring privacy. The second very important step that has been taken is the factoring bill, which has been now passed by Parliament and which removes restrictions that were there on which all entities could get into factoring, and therefore the financial sector firms, NBFCs and banks should avail this opportunity, along with the account aggregator that has been created to use invoices to provide credit. The third key step that I think again will really help banks and financial institutions is the launch of the E-Rupee. The E-Rupee is essentially a digital, you can think about it as a digital currency that can be made very particular for the end use. So the combination of the account aggregator that's been created and the E-Rupee provides the data infrastructure for banks and financial institutions to be able to now increase credit significantly to those that are being hitherto credit rationed, especially those at the bottom of the pyramid. If you go and look at the investments in the SLR securities, the Government of India securities, by banks. While the regulatory norm is 22.5%, we find many of the Indian banks, putting close to 40% in SLR securities. I think, the time now is there with the kind of infrastructure that is being created, the data infrastructure for banks and financial institutions to move away from this phenomenon of lazy banking that we've had, where banks put a large proportion of their, deposits and overall balance sheet in the GSEC, risk-free GSEC, and start taking credit risk, actually, but very well-managed credit risk. And I think that these platforms now provide that opportunity to take well-managed credit risk. Up until now, the banking sector, could potentially argue that, we don't have the data to be able to assess the ability to repay and the willingness to repay of these small and medium enterprises or these individuals. But now, with the creation of this infrastructure, digital infrastructure, I think it is time that the senior management and the boards of banks really put their heads together in how to utilize this so that India, really grows in its credit penetration. India has actually treated digital infrastructure as a public good and as thereby, created and has provided for it very well. Unlike, for instance, countries like the United States, which have basically not yet treated digital infrastructure as a public good. India has done that, and therefore now it is for the private sector to now leapfrog from this, enormous opportunity that has been provided. Thank you very much.
Moving on, we bring you a standalone presentation by Venkatesh Sundar of IndusFace on Application Security Playbook for Fintechs.
My pleasure to talk on this topic, on this Fintech Application Security Playbook. The number one playbook item I would put on the table is put the blinders, of course, read all of them, but take control of what is in your hands, which is your applications. It is your responsibility. Now, what is your application? Not everything is going to be built by you. So insist on security assessment and protection initiatives or the same playbook concepts that you derive for yourselves by your partners that you integrate with as well. The number three, which I would put as a key thing, is not everything can be done by yourself. So whether it is analytics, whether it is security, you have to partner with the best in breed ecosystem who do not just provide tools, but also provide the expertise on the top of those tools. Finally, at the end of it, there also has to be a habit of building transparency. All of this should enable you to build transparency, share the things that you are doing with your stakeholders in a very simple manner, specifically your customers. Because if we look at all the breaches and some of the catastrophic failures that has happened because of those breaches, but really what causes the failure or the business to go down is their inability to handle those breaches in a trust-building, transparent, actionable manner and evoking trust from their customers. And last is all the first 4 points is to be built, because when you have an application, there are two things that is must. You should have a continuous risk detection of your application. And the second thing is have a managed web application firewall, which is actually going to be a gateway. These are two must-haves that I think for any serious business as a tool that has to be put in place along with the playbook concepts that I mentioned about this. Thank you very much.
In our next session, we bring you a special address by Samuel Satyajit.
The pandemic not only accelerated the digital transformation and the way we work, but also the change the way we live. According to Gartner research, that by 2023, the percentage of knowledge remote workers will increase to 60%. And the budgets for the modern secure access will quadruple by 2022. Also, by the end of 2022, 75% of the mid-sized enterprises will utilize a hybrid model. So what are the industry challenges which are driving these market trends? First is the visibility. The second challenge is the complexity. The complexity associated with stitching multiple band-aid boxes of network and security. The third challenge is the risk associated. Enterprises tried stitching diverse set of on-premise hardware boxes from various different vendors. And in addition to, they also dabbled with the point cloud solutions to solve their network challenges, which is today it's failing. A big part of the problem is most of the corporate networks were architected assuming a fixed location. So today what you need is compute, storage, application, security and network delivered at the edge. With that, I would like to end with a note of thanks for this opportunity. Thank you.
Welcome back. Moving on, we are in conversation with A.S. Rajgopal of NxtGen Data Center and Cloud Technologies.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much for talking to us. In the current milieu, when organizations are providing new digital products and services, what are the pitfalls that they must avoid and how?
I think the key thing is the role of the product manager. Unfortunately, it's become very, very complicated today because the market needs are rapidly changing. So the product manager actually balances this need between rapid market change and then innovation required. You can't keep changing your stuff just because market is changing. So the role has become very, very important. The role requires understanding of the business, understanding of the design of the product, of definitely consumers' needs. A real understanding of the market need. And also a bit of technology. That's when he'll be able to balance between all these four elements. And then if he can integrate successfully is when you can avoid these pitfalls.
In your opinion, what will constitute the next wave of fintech innovation?
But to keep it simple, I think the immediate wave is all about digital credit. I think a lot is happening there and it would really empower a whole lot of Indians. The second important aspect, which is primarily driven by government, is the prepaid piece. Across enterprises and governments, I think prepaid vouchers will be a predominant usage that would happen. One of the India's boons is a lot of Indians are abroad. And cross-border transactions, the money transfer between India and abroad and India, especially remittances to India, needs to be really simplified. Because to be able to send money when the money is required somebody in India is still a pretty complicated stuff. So I think immediate term is about these three things.
How will these innovations disrupt the BFSI sector?
See, one of the big problems that our banks today face is that there is no money in the traditional transactions. In the sense that if you withdraw money from an ATM or you pay somebody, banks don't get to charge much. So it's not possible to make money. So traditionally banks have been building tech and building products and services. For example, I used net banking since 1996, and I hardly go to a bank branch ever. So they did quite a bit, but what happened is I think over a period of time they got pretty inward focused, primarily because so much of online security requirements. Their focus became security and compliance. So the thought process of building new products and services today, banks may not be as agile as the market needs. So the best way forward is to collaborate. So I think a lot of collaboration between banks. The biggest asset the banks and insurance companies and all these well-established players have is the user base. So their value add to this whole thing is that bring the user base, bring products and services from the new age fintech companies, collaborate, and then build a business out of it. That's the best way to do it.
How can NxtGen help organizations to ride this wave of change successfully?
What we are trying to do is evolve into a situation where I can enable my customer to actually rapidly develop applications using open source. This is what we are trying to do. And we've done that quite a lot for many companies. The thought process is very simple. We're saying, just get the idea, we'll create the application. So it's idea to application is the approach that we are doing. On the infrastructure side, what we're trying to do is that build a fairly deep edge cloud network in India, so that we can improve the user experience across such a large country, right? I mean, and there are so many latencies. So edge will really enable that to happen.
Thank you so much for talking to us, and we wish you all the very best for the way ahead. Thank you. Next, we're in a special conversation with Samuel Satyajit of Cloudflare. Hi, Samuel. How crucial is it for banks to adopt a digital-first and remote-first operating model, and why?
The pandemic accelerated the digital transformation. And the reality of today's business is anywhere operations. It may probably be, in my opinion, the biggest security challenge the industry faced during this time. When I say challenges in securing the data, the applications, and the employees as well. Mm-hmm. The reality of how businesses operate today, even in a post-pandemic world tomorrow, would be the hybrid. When I say hybrid model, riding on the digital first model and the remote first operating model, and not just remote friendly. See, this applies not just to banking and financial services industry, but all types of businesses in general. The banking and financial services industry have been at the forefront of the digital transformation. The industry need to be focusing on technologies that provide security, reliability, and performance in this new normal of the corporate access network, which is riding on the internet backbone. The business success of the banks and financial institutions depends on how well they execute on these plans.
What are the industry challenges that organizations are facing in this endeavor?
Very good question, Sumit. The biggest challenge the banking and financial services industry today face is security. Mm-hmm. See, traditionally, banks build their IT infrastructure with data center as the hub. See, some of the applications and workloads had moved out of the data center, while some critical data applications continue to reside in these data centers. And there's a false hope of everything inside the perimeter is secure, which is essentially not true. See, with the challenges of the remote access, the perimeter became extremely porous, or in many cases is non-existent. Mm. This is leading to multifold challenges. Firstly, securing your data and critical applications. The second challenge is the impact of the performance when you implement these security strategies in trying to ring fence the entire perimeter. The third challenge faced is the obsolescence of the existing network. So these are some of the top three challenges in my opinion.
How can Cloudflare help organizations in overcoming these challenges?
Cloudflare is a global cloud platform to deliver network as a service and network security as a service. Cloudflare platform is based on the global Anycast network, and our services are standardized across every server in every data centers across the world. So this platform helps in securing both your public-facing applications against threats like DDoS attacks. You would have heard of ransomware DDoS attacks and other threats, as well as the internal applications with zero trust network access, secure access service edge. In addition to security, Cloudflare helps in accelerating the performance of the applications. See, all these benefits provided as a service from the network edge as one unified control plane for your network and security. That's the key advantage of what Cloudflare brings to the table to the modern enterprise.
Thank you so much for talking to us here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit.
Next up, we are in conversation with Venkatesh Sundar of IndusFace. What are the top obstacles that BFSI companies face in their digital transformation journey?
What is really disrupting and what is really something that companies are trying to grapple with is changing business models, right? With the fintech, the tech part of the fin trying to come up with better ways of doing things, has come up with different business models, higher customer expectations, and also one of the top 10 challenges, as I mentioned in the Google, is also security breaches. Is also one of the biggest obstacle for companies to effectively embrace digitization initiatives, especially fintech.
How important is application security in a company's digitization journey?
For digitization to be successful, you have to remove the obstacle. And security breaches, because it requires specialized skill set, is a very, very big obstacle. And for customers to gain trust with their consumers, they have to be able to proactively and transparently show that they are addressing this problem for winning their trust and for providing delightful customer experiences.
Can you tell me what is IndusFace doing in application security arena to help the BFSI sector?
The fact that security breaches is one of the top obstacles, and with speed of innovation becoming one of the pressing need, not just for competitive differentiator, but for very survival of the business. I mean, digitization initiatives is not just for staying ahead of the curve, but today in this day and age is needed for the very survival. With speed of innovation, with speed of more and more services to make it simple for the consumer, the businesses want to focus on their core and they want to eliminate those obstacles that is coming in their path to make sure that they get the best in breed. So IndusFace takes the pain away from them. So you focus on your core business while the application security part, whether it is a risk of business continuity, DDoS, ransomware, website acceleration, risk assessment of your application. We put that all in together along with the managed security model. And we say that you run your business, you go digital fearlessly, while we make it extremely easy for you to secure your business applications.
When we talk about cybersecurity, what are your top predictions for the BFSI sector for the next 2 years?
In terms of my predictions, I will give you some broad level prediction of the industry itself. Fintech, right? It's fin, which is the finance, and tech. So I see a nice integration between these traditional companies who still have this asset base and these new age companies, which is going to partner with this. And the unifier here on both the spectrum, the fin companies embracing tech and the tech companies solving fin problem. The unifier is the technology, and technology requires security because it is the oxygen ventilator. And we believe that it is going to be central to building trust with the consumers. And trust comes with you taking proactive steps for solving the customer problem without them asking for it. And generally, it is not about a breach, right? It is how you equip yourself to deal with the breach. That is what builds trust and mitigating those risks. So I believe transparency, a culture of proactive things is going to be a must-have business enabler as opposed to just a risk mitigator for this business, especially fintech companies in the cybersecurity space.
Thank you so much for talking to us here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
The first wave of fintech ushered in innovation throughout all phases of the consumer life cycle, but its reach was confined to the wealthy. The focus of the next wave of fintech innovation should be on the population's general financial well-being rather than specific transactions. There is a significant opportunity that exists in the unbanked population, and that is what companies are focusing on. The ratio of client lifetime value, LTV, to customer acquisition cost, CAC, might be one of the crucial indicators of fintech success and will be one that will be right in the spotlight. Exciting times lie ahead for the sector, and you can be sure that we will keep bringing you the latest developments from the space. Thank you for watching this special episode, The Economic Times BFSI Innovation Tribe 2021. Goodbye.